Hi, everybody. It's Richard from the Conscious Marketer Podcast, and I'm also joined by Kylie. Hi, Kylie.
Hello.
And we are excited to be introducing you to Sandra Tjoa. She is a Tai Chi and Qigong teacher. It's one of the things that I do and I've done for over 20 years. And Sandra went through our Accelerator program a while back. And maybe, Sandra, you can just maybe start by just sharing a little bit of your background and how you came to, teach the Chinese arts that you share with the world now.
Thank you, Richard. Hi, Kylie. Um, so I always had an interest in Tai Chi. It started in high school, but I couldn't really find anyone to study with. Went into respiratory therapy, worked as a respiratory therapist, and that brought me to Saudi Arabia, where I met my husband. And we actually lived in Asia, which is, a fantastic place to find someone to learn Tai Chi with. But I couldn't find anyone who spoke English, because I didn't want to just learn the moves. I wanted to learn the essence and the foundation, the fundamentals, the principles. And then life sort of carried on, had kids. We were traveling and living in different countries because of my husband's work. And then when the kids got to a stage where they were in kindergarten, which freed up my mornings, I happened to find someone to study with. And when that happened, I was at a stage in my life when I wasn't in great health. I was experiencing depression, sleep deprivation. I didn't have much of an appetite, so I was, underweight, and my very slight frame doesn't tolerate that very well. So really low on energy. And that saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And that's what happened. I was at a stage in my life where I really had to make a switch. And that's when I came across a master who had studied in Malaysia, Hong Kong, and China and spoke English perfectly. So it was a great match. By no coincidence, right? The universe gives you what you need. And that's where it started. And I hadn't really planned on ever teaching. I just wanted to get myself back to health. I was so depleted. I just wanted to get back to feeling normal and alive, basically. And he said to me, he asked me if I would teach, and I said, no way. And he said, yeah, you have to teach, because if you don't, then your regular personal practice is going to fade away. So I heeded his advice, and here I am.
What do you feel like some of the obstacles and challenges that you had along that journey were?
Oh, wow. To get started, for sure, first, because the first place I started to teach in was Japan. And I don't speak the language. I literally started in a little dusty park. I dropped the kids off at school, and some parents learned that I, was wanting to teach Tai Chi. And so 2 and then 3 of them came forward, and we'd just go to this park after dropping the kids, and we'd move through some Tai Chi. So that's how it started. And then I actually got into a tiny studio in Japan, which was fantastic. So that was a challenge to get started. But when we came to Canada, it was really trying to get the word out there. I literally used to just hang flyers on bulletin boards, and literally up until 2 years ago and prior to meeting you, I would print out flyers on an A4 sheet, and I had a list of 33 bulletin boards that I would put that up on, and that pretty well consisted of my marketing or communications. Definitely, yeah, trying to get word out, trying to figure out a way to share what it is that I do and how to reach people. And since being an accelerator with you, Kylie, and Richard, just that encouragement that when we try something, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just go out and do it. And Kylie, the way you coach us in, I know you don't like the word coach, but the way you coach us in paying attention to how we share from the heart and share from our experience, that has made a big difference, because my strength, I always felt, was connecting with my students in person. And I didn't know how to translate that online. All of this is completely brand new to me. Well, was brand new to me. I'm a work in progress.
It's kind of fun because our community is kind of on the woo-woo side a little bit. So we can talk about things that most people are like, what is they're talking about? Like my wife will get out her pendulum in public, and my daughter will be like, what are you doing? Like, but I think one of the terms that I've been using more frequently is like, how can you get in front of the camera and like be like it's live, like it's an in-person thing. And what I say is like, you stay in channel. So you're just there to serve. And it's not like some weird thing about how many likes I can get, or even like, what are other people going to think? But it doesn't mean you shouldn't brush your hair and comb your hair before you get online or whatever. But just kind of, how do you stay in channel? So I'm kind of curious, like when you're getting online, how do you approach it? Do you do anything differently, or like what's made it a little bit easy for you to kind of go that route?
Well, I had no plans on going online. The only reason I went was because a month into when everything shut down, a student came to me and asked if I would consider going online, because she was missing her Tai Chi so much. And I was lucky to have a group of really loyal, devout students. They'd been with me for over 10, 12 years. And so they, you know, I ran these online drop-in classes for the summer, those next 3 months, and they were good enough to experiment with me. And as I learned my way to operate, Zoom, and remember to press record and remember to mute everyone, and then they really helped me orientate how the teaching went, because in Tai Chi we switch all different directions and we greet the four corners of the earth, and so they would help me figure out what they needed, if it was a different view or a different explanation, or maybe a little bit more emphasis on footwork. So they were a huge help. And then what I also did is I started branching more into teaching Qigong classes online, because we're always frontal facing. We're not swishing different directions, and we're mostly in a narrow stance or a wider stance, and that's about it. And I always do encourage everyone to be able to participate from sitting or standing, whether it is Tai Chi or Qigong. Everyone just moves through whatever their bodies are capable of at that very moment, without expectations. And so that has been a really expansive branch of what I do, is when I started bringing in more Qigong offerings. And for the first year, when I went into the Qigong offerings, I actually did I called them Qigong gatherings, and we did it twice a week, completely free for the entire year. And we had people tuning in from all over the place, and it was fantastic. Some people, they were on their own in apartments in big cities with no pets, no family. And to be able to come on to one of the meetings online and just see other faces and other smiles was huge for them. And I didn't, because I'm not very technical. I'm always like, kids, get off your phones, device person and electronic. Realize how much you can connect and communicate and share online and feel like you're a part of something, feel like you're a real community, even though we weren't in the room together, because that's how I was so used to connecting to people. Yeah, a lot of people say, oh, the online thing's not me and that, but that was one thing that really came through, was how you can connect, build community, and share with people, and really gain from other people's energies, even though you're on a screen. That was a huge learning for me.
I love that. So I'm super curious how you found us in particular and what you were really looking for, because it sounds like you were having some traction online. So yeah, how'd you find us? What were you looking for?
How did I find you? So I had done a program for brain retraining, neural retraining, because I have gone through some bouts in my life where I suffered severe symptoms from developmental trauma. And that speaker was a guest on a trauma summit that was run by Sounds True. And so that was the very first summit I've ever attended in my entire life, live or in person or online. And then through Sounds True comes these workshops, conscious marketer. Are you trying to get your work out there? Are you stuck with how to communicate what you do? And are you a reluctant marketer? And at the time, I would have put like non-marketer on my label rather than reluctant. I just, I'm learning how to use different words, but at the time, I'll say, I just didn't want to do it. I just wanted to teach. I didn't want to figure out, I would agonize over what to put on that little flyer, even if it was, 2 or 3 captions. I'd be like, well, how do you word this? And how are you going to appeal to people? Because there's so many benefits. And how do you get people's attention? And then everything's online, so I'm not doing flyers. And I just didn't know how to share what I do. I didn't know how to yeah, like, with the flyers, you put your number, your contact, and then people get in touch with you, whether it was phone or by email. And so I had an email list of past students or anyone who'd inquired. But even out of your inquiries, only so many people are going to join your programs and your classes. And so you have to get out there to reach and communicate with new people who have never heard of you. And when you're not on social media and you don't like devices and you're going online for the first time, how do you do any of that? And so those workshops were a turnaround. I feel like when I first attended those workshops, they were hosted by Tammy, and you just did a set of them a couple of weeks ago. Just listening to you and doing the exercises and the tips that you did, I ended up taking the power of conscious marketing through Sounds True. And then when you offered Accelerator, the first time around, I didn't feel like I was ready. And then when you did the next intake, I was like, yeah, got to do this. And that's how I found you.
That's a like really sweet story, and I just appreciate your heart and your honesty and your, because what drives us forward is this courage, because we know that we have some gifts and we have some way we can be of service in the world, and so that has to kind of overcome all these fears of what will people think, or even if I want to be on social media, and then to, we teach that there's a way to do it that it actually isn't totally in line with your value, and that you can actually teach, as part of as the main thing that you do online, rather than try to convince somebody to market. I think the great leveler too is that also as you go online, you realize that that you're not limited to your local market anymore, especially if you're teaching classes online. So it's kind of like it's a great discovery, and then you're like, okay, how do I do that? How do I find people that aren't in my local city, where they're not ever going to see my flyer, sign up, that I've never heard of, like, 7 cities away or a country away. And when that starts to happen, it's very exciting. Let me ask you a question, Sandra, and I'm kind of curious because I've been talking recently about how when you start to actually have that courage to go online and you start to move this way, it creates visibility. I'm kind of curious, has it been a personal growth experience for you to do this as well, as much as you have to market your business? But I'm kind of curious as how has it changed you or evolved you as a human being on your own path?
Yeah. The two of you leading me through Accelerator was a huge piece of that. When I was thinking of what to share, about my experience with working with the two of you, it was a huge spiritual and evolutional growth for me. As I worked through the modules in Accelerator, it was a cathartic experience, really, because the way you led us through the exercises brought me to realize the true value of what I offer. Before I used to just say, "Oh, I teach Tai Chi and Qigong classes," and that was kind of like my tagline, because isn't that enough? um, but through the modules and working through breaking down, well, what is it that you do? Like, really tap into what is it that you're offering people. And I found that what I do is I help people tap into their inner healing potential, so that they can make their way through challenges, manage stress, manage pain, and do it in a way that allows them to be their true selves, the person that they're really meant to be. And that realization, it still comes with all the benefits that I used to cognitively list in words, but to tap into that from my heart and the way that you have us explore our work was huge. And then having us overcome things to realize that I've done some personal development, spiritual growth courses, and it's often referred to as that snake energy. And both of you talk about that mindset and knowing that these things are simple but not easy. Like, there is some grit and some work that goes into it, but the concepts, the ideas of what can make a difference really are simple. And just go do it. And if it doesn't work the first time around, then the lessons that you learn on that journey, it's the journey. And that's what made a difference for me, because I'm not attached to any result. And every time I do something out of that fear and discomfort, I learn something. And so how can that not be a benefit? How can that not be a growth? No matter what it is you do, you learn how to do something differently the next time, and you learn what works and you learn what doesn't work. And I have to say, the program, Richard and Kylie, both of you, and I've heard people say this over and over again, you share so much of what you know, and it's fantastic. But then on the other end too, you also say that, maybe not everything here is for you. And if you choose 1, 2, 3 things, you can make a difference in your work and your business, if you want to term it that. You don't have to do it all. And I hung on to that. And yeah, every simple change that I make does make a difference. And when I'm trying it out of fear or uncertainty and I'm not sure, because I'll admit some of the stuff I do, I'm sort of following your guidance and just letting the stream take me. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Because we adults, we human adults, we like to do things right. And it doesn't matter. I learn every time. And so I'm advancing and growing that way. So I think the biggest shift for me was that, we all have this, we got this. And if you make those little baby steps, I call them baby steps, you get there. Wherever there is, right? We don't know where that is for any of us.
I want to hear about the creation of your origin story. That was one of my favorite things to work on with you. And what happened when you shared it with your audience for the first time?
Yeah, that was so fun and fantastic. So uh Kylie helped me craft a story, my story, because it was based in trauma. And Kylie helped make me, not make me, but Kylie helped me break it down into a soft, relatable way for people. And she helped me through drafts. And I kept saying, well, what about this word? And how about this sentence? Uh, so I had been thinking about that for a couple of years, Kylie. And I just didn't know how to get it down. And then when we worked together and got it out, I shared it in an email with all my past and present students and all my inquiry list that I'd acquired over the years. And when I shared it, um, two things happened, and I was just amazed. So the first was that students and people who I didn't know were sending me emails and sharing their personal stories with me, because my sharing made them feel compelled to share something personal about themselves with me. And some of them were students, some of them, ended up coming to classes, and some of them just shared. And it was like giving them a chance to be heard, that maybe in a way, even though they didn't know me, they felt like they could share, and that I would hear what they had to say. The second thing is, it was like out of the blue. Um, I had students pay for my classes before I even opened registration. And that was the most bizarre experience. And that all happened within that span of just sharing the story.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you were able to share it with the same audience, and that same audience responded in a new, different way. I find that true for myself too, because there's pieces of my origin story that I haven't shared in the past. And when I do share them, people are like, oh, that's so interesting. And now I feel closer to you. And I think that's what it really is when we're willing to open up and share that aspect of ourselves, we are allowing people into our world, and then they allow us into their world. And it's this really cool sort of reciprocal situation.
Yeah, some students too, that Kylie said that they were they were really glad and touched that they got to know me better through that, even though they had known me for a few years. You know, um, I mean, I'm older than you, both of you, but um, I come from a time where it wasn't professional to share personal information. So to suddenly open up in that different way, and that was something that I learned through Conscious Marketer and Accelerator too, is that now's a different time, and people are looking for the real person behind whatever the offer is. They're looking for authenticity, they're looking to connect, they're looking for attachment. Whereas before, if you shared anything personal about yourself, you were labeled as unprofessional. You didn't share anything personal. So that was a big, switch around for me. How do you enter that space of sharing some really personal stuff when it used to be very I don't think it was very well accepted, say 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, there's definitely been a big shift, and there's a lot more transparency. And yeah, I don't know exactly know when it happened, but it was definitely maybe all the transparency on social media. People kind of want to know who they're buying from. And then if you're not who you say you are, then you're found out pretty fast too, which is kind of interesting. Even in the last couple of years, I don't know, like every month I look online and I see something and I'm like, oh yeah, that person didn't get the memo that they just need to tell the truth. And some of the principles that we teach, like tell the truth, are just so obvious, but that you even have to say them is kind of interesting. But and then for us people who are maybe, I don't know, like maybe a little more fringe dwellers, it's kind of refreshing finally that the world's kind of caught up, and that there is this kind of breath of fresh air where people want to know your backstory. They want to know the different things you've been through and the struggles. And that's actually the form. Sometimes Kylie and I talk about how we don't even like to use the word marketing. We just like to use the word connection, because we're human beings. I know that you had maybe a practice you wanted to share with us, because you're a really talented healer, energetic worker, Tai Chi and Qigong teacher. Do you want to maybe share with the audience what you had in mind?
Yeah, I would love to. So this came top of mind because going through workshops and the programs, I've witnessed people who are really trying to get their work out there. And the work that they're trying to get out there is to help people. And I just want to remind everyone to take care of yourselves while you're trying to get your work out there to help others. So I was just going to share a few tips that take you less than a minute, maybe 30, 40 seconds. I encourage people to try it once in the morning, maybe once in the evening. And if you find yourself spending most of your time during the day stationary, on a device or in a chair, then I recommend to all my students once an hour. So 30, 40 seconds, once an hour, bring this in and see if it makes a difference. So the first thing is grounding. So if you're sitting or standing, you're feeling your feet flat on the floor. And as you relax with that, what we're doing is we're reconnecting with the ground and just remembering that the ground is there. And then sitting in your chair, if you can avoid using the back of the chair, or if you're standing, we're going to allow the feeling of that ground to help us extend nice and tall through the spine. And also recognizing the difference between pushing your chest out and your shoulders back. So just think of a nice tall extension all through the spine. And then we're just going to breathe. So we're going to relax and draw a nice breath in through the nose. And relax your jaw and your mouth open just to a place where it's comfortable. So you're not cranking it, but just nice and easy. And we'll do 3 breaths. Drawing a nice breath in through the nose. Just let your jaw and your mouth relax open and let your exhalation flow out of the body. And we'll do that twice more. And as your exhalation flows out of the body, imagine that it carries with it whatever stresses, tensions, or holdings your body is able to let go of at this time. And that's it. Once in the morning, once in the evening, or if you think of it, once every hour. And if you do that for, say, 3 days, and you notice a difference, I'd love to hear it. If you want to share that with me, if you're inclined to get in touch, I'd love to hear how that goes for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting how some of the smallest practices can really make a difference. I've been kind of started to incorporate like these little mini micro practices, and it's made a huge difference in my workday. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Sandra, if people want to learn more about your classes and what you're offering online and want to get in touch with you, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Richard. My website is qi-taichi.ca. So that's qi-taichi.ca. Or you can email me at sandra@qi-taichi.ca. And also, Richard, if you visit my website, there's a heading called videos. And on that, if you click on that, you'll access a series of short videos that I do called Your Qi Health Minute. And they're all tips from Tai Chi and Qigong principles that you can bring into your day. And I just say all you need is 1 minute and it'll make a difference.
I love it. You should write a little mini book called The 1 Minute Tai Chi Practitioner or something like that. So I be a bestseller. 2 minutes or 3 minutes would be too much, but 1 minute is like 1 minute's perfect. So I think was it Ken Blanchard had the book The 1 Minute Manager, that was a real big seller at one point.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So 1 minute Tai Chi, 1 minute Tai Chi is really good. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Sandra, for sharing your deep wisdom and for going through our programs. We really are appreciative that you have had the courage and are out there teaching and, like meeting the world with your work. That really warms our hearts. Kylie, any final words from you to Sandra?
I just appreciate your time today. Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to you both too, Richard and Kylie, because I honestly would not be on this adventure without your guidance and your wisdom. It's meant the world to me. It really has. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And thanks all the listeners for tuning in today to this special podcast. And you can get the show notes and all the links to Sandra's site. If you go to consciousmarketer.com/podcast, you can find the episode. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, give us a like or share. We don't run any ads here. We just do this to be of service to the community, and that really helps us spread our message. Thanks for joining us here, and we'll have you on the next podcast. Bye for now.